Sea levels are rising at an alarming rate. Water begins to rush into the streets, quickly swallowing entire cities. Earth is on the verge of transforming into a real-life Waterworld. But the question remains, can humans survive underwater? Or would this mark the end of life as we know it? Despite our planet being 70% ocean, it's the remaining 30% of land that allows humanity to thrive. If Earth suddenly became completely submerged, our chances of survival would be slim. Day 1. Everything would begin with extreme heat waves, wildfires, and devastating windstorms hitting the planet all at once. These combined disasters would unleash a prolonged heat wave powerful enough to melt all the ice on Earth, and that's a lot of ice. Currently, about 10% of land is covered in ice, from glaciers and ice caps to Antarctica's vast ice sheet. During the last ice age, 12,000 years ago, 32% of land was under ice, so today's 10% might not sound like much in comparison. But the consequences would be catastrophic. Even if all the current ice melted, sea levels would rise by about 70 meters, 230 feet. That would be enough to submerge nearly all coastal cities. New York, Miami, Vancouver, and Rio de Janeiro would flood quickly. Europe would lose London, Paris, and Venice. The entire Netherlands would disappear. The Maldives, Fiji, and the Bahamas, once dream vacation spots, would be obliterated. Cities like Lagos, Jakarta, and Tokyo would be mostly gone too. The impact would be felt worldwide. Governments might try to evacuate people inland, but the rising waters would outpace any rescue effort. Wealthy nations like the UAE might scramble to construct artificial islands to resettle citizens, but building stable structures in the middle of an underwater crisis would be dangerous, expensive, and likely fatal. Even the richest individuals wouldn't be able to escape the rising tides. 1/3 of Earth's population could be wiped out almost instantly. Day 2. After the sea levels initially rise, global chaos would ensue. Survivors would loot stores, fight for shelter, medicine, food, and fuel. Forget organized evacuations. Every person would be on their own. Masses of cars would clog every road and highway, blocking any real escape. With the power grid failing, survivors would be left cold, hungry, scared, and disconnected. And the worst part? This would only be the beginning. Hypothetically speaking segment, let's answer a few bizarre but fascinating questions. Mohammed Sabiq Masoudi asks, would Wi-Fi still work if the Earth was all water? Surprisingly, yes, but only above the surface. Wi-Fi signals are radio waves and don't travel well through water, especially salt water, so underwater streaming is out. Also, our internet infrastructure, fiber optic cables. Another question, sponsored by Delete Me. Would all this water wash away my personal data from the internet? No, unfortunately. But Delete Me can help you delete personal data from hundreds of data broker websites, protecting you from identity theft, phishing scams, and more. Delete Me scans the web, finds your data, and removes it continuously. I've used it myself. They've already removed my info from 24 sites and found 774 data points. If you're concerned about your privacy, use my link and code WHATIF for 20% off. Now, back to the flooding apocalypse. Day 5. Earth's 1 million underwater volcanoes would begin to erupt due to the global heat. These eruptions would trigger massive, magnitude 8 earthquakes across every continent. Skyscrapers would crumble, millions would be buried under debris, but magma wouldn't be the only thing released. These underwater volcanoes would also unleash massive amounts of water trapped in Earth's mantle. Scientists believe there's twice as much water inside the Earth as there is on the surface. This hidden water would worsen sea level rise even more. Day 6. Next come the tsunamis. Before the world recovers from quakes and flooding, giant waves would sweep over the remaining bits of land. Evacuation zones would become death traps. At speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour, 30 miles per hour, no one, not even Usain Bolt, could outrun them. The water released from Earth's mantle would continue rising as tsunamis obliterated everything in their path. Day 7. Once sea levels reached 3.3 kilometers, 2 miles, every continent would vanish beneath the ocean. Only mountain peaks would remain above water, unreachable to most. Earth would become a true water world. Day 30. A month later, fractured remnants of world governments would try to establish martial law. Mountain peaks would become safe zones. Civilians would hoard food and fight for space on makeshift rafts. Some long-term plans would emerge to build underwater cities, but that would take years. In the meantime, humanity's only chance for survival would be small-scale floating communities. Day 60. By now, Earth's surface ecosystems, forests, grasslands, deserts, would all be gone. Plants that rely on soil wouldn't survive, and land animals would die out too. Those that didn't drown during the floods would starve from lack of vegetation. Marine life wouldn't fare much better. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would dissolve into the ocean, acidifying the water. Shell-forming organisms like clams and corals would vanish, disrupting the marine food chain. Even whales would struggle to survive. Mass extinction. Earth has seen mass extinctions before, 5 to be exact. The first, 445 million years ago, killed off 85% of marine species. The most recent, 66 million years ago, ended the reign of the dinosaurs. Now we'd be facing the 6th. Humans and countless other species would be wiped out. Day 765. 2 years after the initial flood, Earth would be almost unrecognizable. Between 70% and 90% of all species would be gone. The remaining people would be those who survived by looting or luck. Makeshift boats and rafts would dot the ocean, and the richest would have moved into subsea communities. These would rely on desalination tech to produce fresh water and pump in breathable air from the surface, but their numbers would be tiny. Luxury yachts left behind would be seized by survivors, but even cruise ships and barges can only hold so many. Water collection and boiling would be too slow to support everyone. Dehydration would become rampant. Floating communities would form trade systems, but some would collapse into violence and piracy. Diseases would spread rapidly. Lacking healthcare, entire communities would enforce harsh quarantines, often abandoning the sick. Fuel would eventually run out, leaving ships stranded. Oceanic storms, now more violent without land barriers, would wreak havoc. The sky would be thick with vapor, making life hot and humid constantly. Hope on the water. Not all hope is lost. Some groups would master algae farming, producing enough food to survive. With fewer people, resources would stretch further, but life would remain difficult for decades. Year 200. Realistically, this would be an extinction-level event for humans. The overwhelming majority would perish within a generation. Best case, maybe 10 million people scattered in isolated floating communities could persist. Some may even evolve. The Bajau people of Indonesia already have 50% larger spleens, allowing them to dive up to 70 meters and hold their breath for 13 minutes. The Mungkin people of Thailand have adapted their vision for underwater hunting. These traits hint at how humanity might begin to evolve in a water world. But it wouldn't be enough. With malnourishment, disease, and violence decimating populations, and infant mortality skyrocketing, there simply wouldn't be enough people left to rebuild civilization. Despite our origins in the ocean, we evolved for life on land, and we'd ultimately be undone by our own changing planet. While this scenario is extreme, sea levels are rising. 20,000 years ago, sea levels were 120 meters lower than today. All Earth's glaciers and ice caps will eventually melt. It will just take about 5,000 years. Maybe it's time to start planning a planet-wide evacuation. But that's a story for another what if. If this video blew your mind and made you rethink life on Earth, imagine what else we explore here. From exploding moons to reversing Earth's spin, there's a whole universe of what-ifs waiting for you. So if you're curious, adventurous, or just love diving into the impossible, hit that subscribe button and join our journey into the unknown. Don't miss the next mind-bending scenario. Your next what if starts here.